How is that? I mean, I know Oxygen is non-profit. Everything you make goes back into the company. How is it maintaining such like a business that you have so much pride in? How is that for you?
Oh gosh, that's a great question. It's tough. It is really tough because
Mhm.
it's so personal. Because it has to be, because as you say, it's non-profit. So everything everything that we do has to be done completely from the heart, and we have to believe
Mhm.
in it fully, because if we don't, without sounding kind of dire about it, it's like what's the point if we don't if we don't put
Yeah.
invest in it? Um and it's something that I set up the company when I was 17, so that's ten years ago now.
Mhm.
It's a long time of kind of toiling away, and it means that then when we do get those like successes and those little moments where someone watches a film and relates to it, or enjoys what we do, or we get recognized by an award or by
Mhm.
funding or whatever it might be, it's kind of like, oh, okay, this is why we're doing it. We are
Yeah,
doing
all
good.
worth it. Mhm.
Yeah. And it can be really isolating, it can be really insular, and it can be really difficult to find um kind of people who've been in that same situation that you have. And so yeah, it is a relief when that kind of happens. That's like, we are doing everything right. We are.
Mhm.
And there's always that kind of moment where you always have those doubts, and I think everyone does, even in the industry and in creative industries.
Mhm.
It's always that. I think there's a very familiar path where people feel like, is this the right path for them? Can they do this? And especially for
Definitely.
those from systemically excluded backgrounds like myself,
Mhm.
it's a real big reflection that you have to have with yourself of like, can I realistically do this for a living? Um, and then yeah, all it takes is a letter from someone who's come out to their parents
Mhm.
because of a film that we've made, which is just stupendous, and makes me realize like, oh, this, yeah, this is
Yeah,
exactly it. This is exactly why.
definitely. You
So
mentioned that you're making films that people watch and they relate to in a sense where they feel so seen like they never have before. I wonder if there's a film that you saw that you felt that way. Unless it is just the films you made and you're creating, because obviously you are paving the way in film, I would say, especially
oh,
as a queer person growing up, not seeing the representation that felt like it was me. Obviously, you do see it. Um, it's not bare, but
yeah,
it was there a film that you saw and you felt that way.
definitely. There was a film I saw when I was 8, and I definitely shouldn't have
Oh.
seen it when I was 8, but I did, and it changed everything. It's a film called La Vita Bella, or Life is Beautiful. It's a Robert Benigni film,
Mhm.
and it was the reason why I say I shouldn't have seen it at 8 is because it's a really quite harrowing film. I don't, have you seen it? I don't know if
I
you.
haven't. I've heard a lot about it though.
Okay, okay, cool. So it's, yeah, I mean, it's a really particularly uh, poignant and kind of beautiful film, and it's a film very much of two halves, and it was the very first subtitled film I'd ever seen.
Mm.
I went to the cinema to go see it. It was being shown as part of like the Leeds Film Festival, or like
Mhm.
Leeds Young Film Festival, I think. And it was that moment, I think, where I realized, oh wow, I could I could do something where I could make people feel like how I felt
Mm.
that moment, even though the film isn't queer at all, and it has no kind of none of the same messages that I really feel passionate about now, and even then, it still was that moment of realization that film is such a powerful tool to be able to get
Yeah.
voice across, and especially those whose voices need amplifying, and whose voices often are too silent. And I think, yeah, so that it was that moment, and I remember I went with my mum to go see it, and we were both sobbing by the
Yeah.
end of it. And
Mhm.
um and I went to the organizers of the screening straight after it, and signed up there and then for the Leeds Young
Wow.
Film Festival to volunteer. So from the age of 8 till 18, I volunteered for the Leeds Young
Wow.
Film Festival, and I got to watch hundreds of films over those years of films that I would never ever have seen because they're, family films from Denmark and Sweden and Holland,
Yeah.
all of those brilliant films that we just don't really get to see in the UK. And that was kind of, yeah, it was really quite an eye-opening experience of
Mhm.
realizing, oh, I could do this. I could, films, someone's made a film. Like
Yeah.
when you're younger, you just kind of watch it and think it's just appeared magically. And there was that moment of
Mhm.
realization of, oh, I could actually be the person who makes them.
Yeah.
So yeah, I said that film was the one that kind of
That's
triggered that.
incredible. Yeah, because I think it's funny how you said it's not because it was a gay film, it was because it was a film, and you
Yeah,
saw it and thought, wow, this has power. This moves people. There's people in the audience and myself crying because of this film, and I think it's inspiring that you took that and was like, yeah, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna make these people cry.
oh.
I think that's amazing. I think another incredible thing is in film. Obviously, we see everything in film. There's nothing left unseen anymore, especially when it comes to sex or nudity. And I was on your website, which is amazing layout, by the way. It was very fun
Thank
to look
you.
through.
I
um,
did that myself, and I
yeah,
really
it's
struggled.
amazing. Yeah, I've made a
Thank you.
website before, and it's difficult. But one thing, a quote that I really liked is, "We're so proud to be changing the way sex is on screen, but especially the way sex and intimacy is shot. We have dedicated programs and teams who are paving the way for more diverse and inclusive environments, which creates a brave and safe space for all cast and crew." I loved reading that because I think one thing is vulnerability in real life needs to be shown on screen in the way that we feel it. And I definitely feel it when I watch your projects. When I was reading that quote, I was like, yeah, this is true. How did you make the decision to make that so important?
Yeah, so this is
That might
I
have been
love
too
this. I love this. This
much.
is great. This is fantastic. Um, I think it's always kind of been in the back of my mind, growing up, realize like that kind of realization of, oh, I'm gay was
Mhm.
like a moment. And initially it was in that period of time of kind of coming to terms with it. It was very much I focused on just me because
Yeah.
you don't really kind of focus on other people who might be struggling with the same thing. And it's only kind of in retrospect and once I'd kind of come out and then reflected on that experience that I realized it could have been so much easier. If, for example, queer narratives were seen on screen at that time, or queer
Mhm.
intimacy and intimacy as a whole was shown in a way that was inclusive and diverse, like it would have
Mhm.
been so much easier. And thankfully, we are seeing that now, which is great.
Mhm.
But the reason why I thought, okay, this is something I really want to do is I started training as an intimacy coordinator in 2015.
Mhm.
Back then, I don't even think it was called intimacy coordination. I don't think it even
A lot of people
exists.
have never heard of that. They just think
No,
they don't
yeah,
even think there is any coordination. They just think, okay, this is the scene, go with it.
that's yeah, which for a long time is what happened,
Yeah.
which is wild to think of that that's the
Mhm.
case. And unfortunately, it still does on some sets. So, for me, even though we're making stuff on often no budgets or incredibly, incredibly low budgets,
Mhm.
there's still that kind of responsibility that I feel, not only in the storytelling that we produce, so representing queer narratives accurately and responsibly and kind of and also being different with it as well. So, showing things in a different light and having villains who are queer and things like that,
Yeah.
because that's also really cool representation. But equally specifically with sex and intimacy and nudity, a lot of the time it can be very easy for actors and crew members as well to be taken for advantage for during independent productions and low budget productions because those safeguards just often aren't in place. And so
Mhm.
because I was so passionate about telling these stories, I just thought, okay, well, if we are going with those stories, I want to make sure those safeguards are in place. And also, it's kind of like the industry that we want to see going forward. And so,
Yeah.
you know, hopefully, with all of Oxygen sets, our aim and our mission is to say, look, this is what we want for the future. This is like the next, we see ourselves as the next generation of filmmakers, and so
Definitely.
we're kind of saying some of the things that have happened in the past on film sets aren't right. We put a lot of emphasis on well-being, on having space to kind of, if you need to drift off for a little bit, to just have kind of a quiet moment, or
Mhm.
to have ability to make sets more accessible as well for people
Yeah.
with various disabilities, both physical and neurodiverse. Like it's really important to us that we kind of see ourselves as like, if we can do it, then Hollywood definitely can. Um,
Good. Yeah,
so
definitely.
so yeah, and beyond that as well, it's also just really fun. I loved it.
Yeah.
I love telling stories that are, on the kind of cusp of uh provocativeness, and kind of
Mhm.
and play with the audience's psyche and psychology, and also shift what I think people think of when it comes to queer narratives and intimacy. Um, we know that, going back to kind of why I wanted to get into film was to make people feel something.
Mhm.
I know, the psychology of an audience is particularly susceptible or vulnerable to kind of feeling emotions when they're scared, or when
Mhm.
they're seeing something on screen that might arouse, for example. And so what if we can trigger those things, but then pull the rug from underneath, and
Yeah.
show them like, but why are you feeling like this? And kind of pose those questions. It gives such an interesting experience, I think, for an audience to kind of feel, should they really be watching this, and how are they watching it, and kind
Mhm.
of analyzing that. So yeah, it's really fun. I love doing it.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's good.
Amazing. In a recent project that you completed, Electric Love, how was it? You dealt with almost supernatural themes, I would say. I mean, it was like, um, the main character is transforming into all these different. But how was making something that isn't real? Because obviously you mentioned you are a small budget like indie company. How is it doing something almost magical, in that environment? How was that for you?
I'm so glad you said it's almost supernatural. It's one
When I,
thing.
yeah, when I watched it, I
It,
was like, this is like magical. I love it. Yeah,
yeah, but it,
because it
it
is
really
transformation.
that's exactly the vibe that I kind of had in the back of my mind, that
Hmm.
we didn't really push with it. We just wanted to kind of leave it there. So I'm so happy that you you saw that. I think it was. I mean, it was a challenge because, as you say, it costs a lot of money to do those kind of, to have some of those elements where it's kind of a bit bolder and a bit more visual effects heavy, or things like that. It always costs more money, and we shot Electric Love on, I think it was 3 or 4 thousand pounds, which is,
Wow.
obviously it's a significant amount of money when, you know right now especially, but for a film where there's
Yeah, for a film, it's a different
it's a drop in
game.
the
Yeah,
it's
yeah, it's
nothing.
nothing. Yeah.
And so we had to be really, really canny with how we spent money, and how we kind of pushed things, and how we got things, a lot of things for free. We we were one of the first independent productions to use kind of virtual production technology. So
Mhm.
like the screens that they use on The Mandalorian and a lot of the Disney projects where they've got like the kind of the virtual green screen type thing.
Wow.
We used a little bit of that for the scene where he's on a train, and it's like a New York subway type thing.
Mhm.
Uh, but yeah, it was kind of, we had to look at why we were wanting to do it a lot of the time, and we had to look at what's the reason, and why do we need to show it, and being careful with what we showed, because as you said, budget was the main thing. If it didn't look good, it would have looked awful. And it was
Yeah,
like,
it's a fine line between like amazing and terrible. And I
yeah,
think
exactly.
you perfectly walk that line. It's amazing.
Yeah, and it's so easy for someone to be pulled out of a story just because something doesn't look quite right, or because CGI or effects are just not quite there, and thankfully kind of pulled off okay.
Yeah.
Um, but it was a real challenge, and I think one of the things we set out to was with every film we make, the next one we want to do something different. We want to challenge ourselves and do something
Hmm.
more challenging or more provocative or more interesting or just something new, because otherwise I kind of feel like a bit of a fraud if we don't.
Yeah.
I feel like I always want to learn something,
Hmm.
and that was a really big really big
The
learning curve.
learning curve, amazing.
Um,
Yeah.
but it was really nice to have a universe and to create a whole new world that didn't exist for a queer narrative and for a queer story, because it made me realize it allowed me just to strip the world of kind of all of the heteronormative, misogynistic, racist kind of things that happen
Hmm.
in our world,
Yeah.
unfortunately, and kind of actually just create a new one. It was kind of quite a relief
Yeah.
in a lot of ways. So yeah, it was quite therapeutic actually.
Amazing. Looking on your projects, a lot of the times you're listed as the director, the writer, the producer. How, I mean, I know you have a huge passion for film, so I'm the same. Like, if I'm involved in a project, I want to be in a bit of everything. But how is it genuinely doing everything? I mean, I know you're not on your own, but I can
Yeah.
imagine you can feel like, damn, like I'm right. I wrote this, I'm directing it, and I'm trying to get it out to people. Like, does it feel overwhelming, or is that just how you love it? Is that just how you are?
It can be really overwhelming. It can be, but you're right. It's exactly as you say. There are other people there, and it's totally
Mm-hmm.
dependent on them. If there's a team out there that are kind of um good and are able to kind of do that kind of to fill in some of those gaps and make me feel that I'm not on the verge of a breakdown, that's kind of where like it'll be okay.
Yeah,
Sorry, the TV in front of me was going to turn off, and that's the thing
it's
that's
okay.
putting light on me. Um, so yes, it can be really overwhelming, but also I've had to learn how to not micromanage, because
Mhm.
when I set up Oxygen at 17 and I was doing the films then, I really was doing like every single thing.
Every single role, yeah.
It ended up where I remember in some of our early films, I just made up names for the end credits, because it was like, otherwise it'd just be like props by Gage Oxley, editing by Gage Oxley, and it's like it would end up just being all me, and I was like, I don't want that, and
Yeah.
so now we're in a position, thankfully, where we've got a lot of people who are on the same page and who have the same passion and love the stuff we create. But yeah, it can be difficult. What I would say as well though is, so we're working on a project at the moment, because it's Oxygen's 10th anniversary next year.
Mhm.
Um, we've got a project that we're filming next year, which is it's huge. It's the biggest one we've done, and I'm not writing it, directing it, or producing it.
What?
I'm just execing it. So
Mhm.
it's really strange because I have monthly meetings about it and like checking with the team every now and again, but it's the first time a film has happened under our company that I have absolutely no like hands-on creative
Mhm.
stuff to. I'll be on set. I'm sure they won't be able to kick me off, but I'll
Yeah.
I'll just be kind of there watching and supporting as much as I can. And I think in a lot of ways actually that's been a harder learning curve
Yeah, I
than
was going to say, like, I can imagine you'd struggle more with that because you
yeah.
want to, like, you're used to it, and obviously you're like, let me see the script, let me change this, So I can imagine you're like, I wish I could have directed this, but obviously I bet
Mm.
it also feels amazing being like, yeah, this is my company that I've built. I get to oversee everything.
Yeah. It is. It's a real pinch me moment, because I've had to realize like, oh, this is what film studios look like and do. Like the people who are like the CEOs of companies don't actually
Yeah, they're
do
not even
anything.
involved. They don't even know what film they're making.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, it's been a lovely experience as that. So I'm looking forward to seeing where that
Mhm.
goes. Yeah.
Amazing. I was also, because obviously my magazine is about cinema. Would you say that going to the cinema and watching a film is an immersive experience as much as making a film, or would you say
Oh,
it's because when you're there and you're making a film, you're in it. For me, as someone who's obsessed with going to the cinema, when I'm watching a film, I feel like I'm in it. Do you feel the same way?
Yes, I do. I do. Do you know what? I've never ever thought of this before. This is the first time so this thought might be completely mad, but I think when I go to the cinema to watch a film, there are times where I feel just truly immersed in the story and like feel like I'm there.
Mhm.
A lot of the time, I feel as if I'm on the film set.
Amazing.
Like
Wow.
I can imagine because usually when I go see a film, I'm like, oh, I wonder how they did that, or like, oh, I wonder
Mhm.
what part of the production this happened in, and like
Yeah.
all of those things. And I've just now clicked now you've said that when I watch a film, I'm immersed in the production of it and like the
Mhm.
film side of
You
it.
can't take the director hat off.
Yeah, well, it's impossible to watch films with me often because I'm like, that's a mistake, which is awful. I
Mira's
try
the
not to
exact
do that now.
same. Every
Uh,
time we watch something, she'll be like, "There was a mistake there." You're the same. Yeah.
Good, good. But
Funny.
yeah, I think you know when we're on a film set, I mean one of the reasons why I love directing is because you are often just watching performance, and obviously you feed back and do notes and stuff and set things up. But when action's called, you do just kind of sit and watch, which is really lovely because you do kind of feel a bit like a an audience member.
Mm.
But I try not to watch the monitor too much. I might watch it for one or two takes, but a lot of the time I'm just watching the actors once I know that the shot's good. And so it does feel very theatrical. It feels like I'm often at like a play or something because I'm just watching actors perform like there and then. So
Mm.
yeah, it's a really interesting experience. But yeah, that's really made me think as that.
Good. I'm glad.
That's
Um, no, I just also wanted to talk to you about, upcoming projects. If there anything you can tell me.
yes.
Maybe just obviously, I know you can't say much. Um, but what's something that's different about this time? Has there been anything where you've done something differently that you've like never done it before?
Yeah. So we were on set a couple of weeks ago for a film called Rat, and
Yeah.
that was even though that's kind of finished in terms of the production, we're in post-production now, but that was different because it was equipment on a level that I haven't particularly kind of been responsible for fully.
Mhm.
Um, so we did a film a few years ago called Me and the Witch, which was for Channel 4, and that had major equipment, but that wasn't really an oxygen fully production, whereas this one was. So being responsible for kit and stuff was like a real like there was a moment where we're looking at the car with all of the equipment in, and I just said, just out of interest, how much stuff is in that car? Like, how much worth is it? And they were like, it's about £300,000. And I was like, okay, great. I'm
But
glad we've got
wow.
insurance.
Yeah.
Um,
A lot
so
of
that
responsibility
was
there.
one thing. We also shut down a road for it, which was we've shut down the streets before,
Yeah.
which was really fun. But shutting down a road was like, this is really cool. It made us feel like really important and like,
Yeah,
yeah,
no cars, please. Set
yeah.
in
We had like
progress.
road signs and everything, and like
Amazing.
traffic marshals, which was really cool.
Mhm.
Um, and then so that was for Rat, but we've got a film called Socks that's happening in just under a month now.
Mhm.
Um, and that's the first time we're shooting kind of outside of Yorkshire. We're going to
Wow.
South Wales for the first time. So
Mhm.
yeah, that one's gonna be an interesting challenge as well because just about location because often we utilize the contacts that we've made locally to get things for free or for cheap because that's how we have to do things. Whereas with this one, we're just starting completely new. So
Yeah. Wow.
uh, yeah,
Completely changing gear for like for the past 10 years, and all of a sudden it's
yeah,
changed. I bet that's difficult, but also
it
fun.
is.
Keeps
It
you
is,
intrigued.
yeah. And I think as well because we're filming in this rural like seaside village where
Mhm.
everyone knows everyone. We've had to
Yeah.
navigate kind of those relationships where it's like people kind of a bit on edge about new people coming in and kind of filming stuff with the cameras, but
Mhm.
actually they've been so welcoming and lovely. So yeah, we're really excited about that. But it's been a real that one of the challenges about that is coordinating transport for people because all of the cast and crew, we've got two different units that are essentially converging on South Wales. We've got one from the south,
Wow.
which is Brighton and London, and then one from
Mhm,
the north, which is Liverpool, Leeds, and Manchester. And
mhm,
we've had to try and coordinate cars to just get there, which has been uh, a headache.
mhm.
Really fun. Yeah.
Amazing. And also, I mean, working with a crew, like you said, which has been a difference in like your company's changed with the crew has gotten bigger. How important is it to work with people who have the same values as you, like in the respect of the same passion for film? Maybe they're queer. Like, how important is that for you?
Yeah, I think it's definitely important because when I first started out, there were, out of need, I just kind of brought my friends on board and it was like,
Mhm,
it's just people who were in my class or whatever were making stuff together and
mhm,
it worked for that time, but then kind of after a couple of years, people went to university, people went to colleges or whatever and went into jobs. And I think there was a definite thing of people not like losing some of that passion a little bit and realizing that
yeah.
actually they don't want to be in film. And it's
Mhm,
an incredibly difficult thing for me when they realize that when they're on a film set, which is what happens. So it was like now I'm really, really conscious about making sure that the people we work with have a genuine passion for film and for filmmaking,
mhm.
but also don't necessarily have to be the best cinematographers or the best lighting people or the best
Mhm.
writers or whatever it might be. It's we all all we all we ask for is that people are kind and people are
Yeah,
passionate and people are proactive. I think those are the main three things that we really look for. And obviously because we are a space where all of our like founding members and all of our directors are in some way queer or
mhm.
trans, non-binary, or on the kind of spectrum of queerness somewhere.
Yeah, somewhere.
Um, yeah. I think inherently any production that we do, I'd like to think we've got those kind of spaces that feel quite welcoming and quite kind of
Mhm.
open to people who might not particularly feel they can express themselves fully on other film sets, which is often quite masculine and quite kind of
Yeah,
macho and sometimes quite ageist as well. A lot of the people we work with are younger,
yeah,
and a lot of the time that has an impact, on other film sets. And so we try our hardest to make sure the environment feels as kind of welcoming and comfortable and safe as possible because I think that's really important. So while we don't obviously ask anyone if they're queer, to join
yeah.
to
In
join
the
on set,
interview.
that definitely doesn't happen. But
Mhm.
I think because we are so visibly and proudly supportive of kind of LGBTQ stories, both on our film sets and on screen as well, it tends to be that we just kind of, yeah, we end up being kind of a group of queer misfits on set anyway. That's kind of the way that it's worked out. So, um, and that I do think is important because it means then the films that we make truly are representative of a broad range of queer views because
Definitely.
even within the founding members, I have completely different views to some of like my queer friends who are
Mhm.
in there about kind of various different topics. I think that's really important and really um and should be absolutely nurtured because as soon as we say, I think as soon as you say that queer people all are the same and have the same values and have the same thing, that it becomes boring. it becomes
Yeah, it's
it becomes
repetitive, and also I think it also perpetuates almost stereotypes. Like
yeah,
if you're gay, this is how you come out, this is how you experience life. Whereas it's so individual, like experience, like same as anything. Like
yeah,
it's not a grouped thing. It's so one person to one person is completely different, which I think is really interesting, especially working with people um, who it's like they've gone through the same thing, but they've done it completely differently. But
Yeah.
somehow they've found the same road as you, which is
Yeah.
incredible.
And ultimately, we all, we all, the one thing that brings us together is film. That's the one
Mm-hmm.
thing we can all, if one of us has a different opinion on, for example, gay people, gay actors playing gay characters, which is a conversation we have quite often in terms
Yeah.
of what we all think of that, and we all have very different opinions. Ultimately, we all come down to the fact that we all believe that more queer characters should be on screen and more gay actors should be playing
Mm-hmm.
roles on screen. That's kind of the, we strip it down to the very basic kind of things and to figure
Yeah.
out, where we what we believe in and what our passions are, and I think that's really important. What I would say on the reverse of that though is there are definitely views that we I don't think would gel well with a film set. So, for
Yeah.
example, if someone came in and was phobic or racist or
Exactly.
had
Yeah.
any of those views, it is, even though we're not restrictive in terms of who comes on set and who learns. I think that again it just comes back to the the foundational things that people are kind, compassionate,
Mm-hmm.
proactive, and want to be there. So yeah, that's the main thing.
Amazing. Also, on your website, I saw a lot of links for all your past projects. How important is it that you, no matter how old the company gets, no matter how old you get, make sure that people see everything you've done? Because obviously, you've done so many things in a small amount of time. I can imagine that'll triple. How important is it that you show off what you've done? I think a lot of the times things get lost in the past. How important is it to you to make sure that they're still being shown?
That is incredible. This is just to say this is by far the best interview I've ever had in my entire life.
What?
This is
Thank you
amazing.
so much. That is
Uh,
so kind.
that's such a fascinating question that I've never considered. And I do
Mhm.
think it's really important. I do think it's really, really important.
Mhm.
We probably could do better and should do better. I know we've just moved our website to a different server, and so a lot of the older pages have kind of I've been focusing on doing the newer stuff first.
Mhm.
But actually, now you've mentioned that, I do think it's really important to, not even just for archival stuff, but also just to show that people, that transparency that we didn't start with projects that have had success. We've
Yeah.
definitely, me especially when I was, making films when I was 8 or 9. I don't think I'd put those on the website, but
Yeah.
the ones that I did when I was 16, 17, which are still part of our journey and still part of our
Mhm.
company and the history, even though I watch them back and I'm like, I cringe and think, oh God. Actually, I think they're really important to show that
Mhm.
people transition and grow and develop their skills, and also just, to be proud of the fact that we did something.
Yeah.
I think that can be, not even focusing on the product itself, but on the fact that we did something when we were 16, 17. We
Yeah.
made, a feature film that we put into film festivals and screened at cinemas and stuff,
Mhm.
for no reason other than because we loved it and because we were passionate
Yeah.
about it. Even if we look back now and think, oh God, that was awful,
Yeah.
which is true. It's like, I do think that's really important. And I think yeah, I think so often people are so eager to sanitize their positions in terms of either their art or their artwork, but also just in general life, and I've been guilty of it as well. I've gone through my Instagram and thought, oh, I'll delete that picture. It's not, it's not
Yeah.
from
It's
2014.
normal, I suppose. Growing up,
Yeah,
you change how you see things. So that is completely normal.
exactly. And I think there's elements of that, but actually I think we're so quick to delete things and sanitize things and appear that everything is brilliant and always has been. And
Mhm.
and actually, I think there's way more power in showing, no, it hasn't been. It's, we
Yeah.
were a small company making films on weekends because we love doing it. and we still kind of do that now, but just a
Mhm.
bit better.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a really fascinating thing. But
Mhm.
yeah, thank you for
It's
opening that
okay.
up to me. That's
Yeah, because I mean, you said you go back and you cringe, but I can imagine there's some, 14-year-old gay boy that watch it and they're like, oh my gosh, this is so meek. So like
yeah,
I think
yeah,
that's why it's so important um to yeah, keep it alive. Keep everything that you've ever done alive, you're unless you genuinely cannot sit through it. um but apart from that, I mean like when I did things in my A levels, I might look back and think, oh, that was very good. But then also I might look back in 5 years and think, wow, I was 17. I wrote a little script for maybe a minute and a half of a film, but still, you go back and you think like, oh, I actually did do something that I've never done before.
yeah,
That's what's so important is that you take your passion, you take your limited experience and a love for something, and you turn it into something that is now your job.
yeah,
And that's just a dream. I mean, to be able to call yourself a filmmaker as, a little kid at 8 years old watching a film and then volunteering, and now this is your job and this is what you do. I can imagine it's just like, yeah, this is me, this is how I've done this. And I think that's why it's so important to keep everything because, yeah, show off. I think
yeah.
a lot of people like don't show off enough. I think more showing off in 2025. That's what I say. Show off. I love
It's
when people are proud of what they do.
it's a very British thing, I think, isn't it? To kind of
Yeah,
not be like but to be kind of what's the word?
like coy about it a little bit.
Yeah,
Like, oh,
yeah,
oh, I just
and
made a film. It's
yeah,
just not
it's
that good.
nothing. It's nothing. You watch it if you want. Like, yeah, it's
Yeah,
we kind of.
no,
I think,
scream about it. Yeah,
and
that's what
I
I
think
think.
just you mentioned something there that made me think as well. Like, that to my 16 and 17-year-old self, if I could go back 10 years and be like,
Mhm.
look at what happens in 10 years. Like,
Yeah,
this is where well, this is what you'll have done. Even though now, sitting here, I'm always like, oh God, we've not done enough. I'm doing, I want
mhm.
more to do this. I want to do this more. I want actual finance and funding. Like, all of those things that I'm always like, yeah. Actually, if I go back 10 years to the 17-year-old who was doing a feature film on like 200 quid and roping his friends together, I think there is that kind of thing of like, look at the difference. I mean, back then, I mean, the first films I was making when I was 15, 16, I wasn't even out yet. And
Mhm.
that's a really, you know, it's a really important part of that journey actually that, I've perhaps come to some terms or become more comfortable, become more myself through these years because I've been making films. And I
Yeah,
think, yeah, it is really nice to think that. Thank you for that.
that's okay. No, I mean, like I say, if you're not proud of yourself, how do you expect other people to enjoy what you make? You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, obviously you should be able to take criticism or like maybe someone doesn't appreciate what you've made and you're like okay, but I think another thing is asking why, like why didn't you
Mm.
like this film, why did you not think the editing was good, why did you think the lighting was this and this. And also it's a film is hugely opinion based. It can be a
Mm.
film that is like critically acclaimed, the best film of all time, and someone can watch it and think I didn't get that at all. Like there's a few films I watch and I'm like, because I rank them on Letterboxd and stuff, and I'm like, 5 stars, what? But I think that's the fun about film is that there's no right answers. There's literally not a right answer at all.
Mm.
Obviously, you want it to be respectful of people, and you don't want to watch a film where it's just extremely homophobic. But
Yeah.
you're also like, why have they done that?
Yeah.
Why? Getting to the bottom of things, I think, is what film is all about. Would you say the
Yeah.
same?
100%. Absolutely. I mean, when we were doing Electric Love, I think one of the producers was sick of me saying this, but I kept on saying like, I would rather have someone like when we finished making it, it's shown. I'd rather
Mhm.
have someone come to me and be like, "That was dreadful. I hated it. It was awful. It was offensive. Be really vitriolic and
Yeah,
passionate about why they hated it. I'd much rather have someone do that than someone just go, yeah, it was all right.
Yeah,
I,
you want
I
that goodness.
yeah,
Yeah,
because I think that's the thing. Again, going back to why I make films is I want to make people feel something,
yeah.
and
Even if it's hatred,
even if it
at least
is,
they're
yeah,
feeling.
at least they're
Hmm.
feeling something. And obviously, I'd much rather people feel good, and like I'd much rather see
Yeah.
the passion being positive. But ultimately, I know that the films we make are in some ways quite controversial because that's what we've set out to do. We've set out to make films that are provocative and will make people feel uncomfortable and will make people feel that they're not quite sure about how they feel or how they should be feeling. That's the intention. And so I totally, I don't particularly mind at all when if someone says I really hated that, it was disgusting, it was awful, because it shows to me that I've not, at least I've not pulled the punches that I wanted to do. And
Hmm.
for every one person that does that, there's going to be another person who's on the other extreme who didn't feel like they'd been sugarcoated or condescended or patronized because we did go to that extreme with a theme or with a character or whatever it might be. Um, and so yeah, it's a really interesting one. As you say, art and film is so subjective, and
Definitely.
I think so often, I look at film as it is just one of the many art forms. Looking at
Mhm.
like music and looking at um portraits and art. People didn't go to Van Gogh and say, "Oh, I think you should be doing this. Actually, I think you should stop painting sunflowers, and I think you should do roses or whatever." I think
Yeah.
the thing is like art can sometimes just stand as it is, and
Mhm.
have people see it for whatever they want to see it as. And I think that's really, really important to me as well, because we've done screenings in the past where afterwards we've had, I've gone to people and said, "Oh, so could I ask some questions? What did you think about it?" And they've had such a profound reaction to a film in a way, and when they've described it, I've been like, "Well, that was 100% not my intention, but great that you've had that.
Yeah.
That's amazing." I had
Hmm.
no idea that was just like a throwaway shot or a moment that I just didn't even consider, but lovely. I'm so glad that you had that moment. So
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
unpicking a film after watching it, I think, is one of the best parts about seeing a film because, you can watch it with someone, they hate it, you love it, they tell you why, and you're like, oh, I didn't even notice that because you either might have been focusing on something else or
Mm.
the message has just been lost for some people. So I think, like you said, you don't want to not you'd rather go over the top with something than be like, oh, we'll do it a little bit, but
Yeah.
because if you don't go for it, then what's the point of even putting it in?
Yeah.
Like a lot of the times, like if you're like you mentioned, Electric Love, if it was mildly like, oh, he has some relations with some people, but no, the point is he is a sex worker and that's what he does, and you're gonna show everyone.
Mm.
If you were just like, oh, don't put that in because then people would be like, well, what's this even about? But I
Yeah.
think the fact that you're so in your face with it, obviously not to an extent where it's like, well, but like so in your face, and so this is what the film's about. This is a character. Take it or leave it. I think that's the best part about film.
Yeah, definitely. And Socks, the one that we're doing in December, is a perfect example of a similar kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing, because that one's about fetish culture and
Mm-hmm.
kind of sex workers again. And I was talking to one of the actors about it, and that, we always have these conversations with actors about kind of making sure they're comfortable and stuff. But one of the things that we were kind of discussing was the fact that if we didn't do certain things with the story and push it to the point where people might be like, "Oh, that's a bit, geez, that's a bit full on."
Yeah.
It means then if we kind of, for example, if we had a scene where there's sex or intimacy between two characters, and just as they started kissing, we kind of tracked away and went to the waves or whatever it ends up being that always happens.
Mm-hmm.
It's us essentially saying that this whatever's happening over here shouldn't be shown. It's taboo. It
Yeah.
it should be censored. It's and it should be shameful. There's kind of an inherent shame, and I think with British culture, there's definitely a lot of shame around sex and intimacy.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And so I always, you know, I was saying to him, like, the whole message of this film show fetish culture and intimacy as something that should be explored, and you
Mm,
know, with it being consensual and with it being adults, that's something that I think people should be able to kind of facilitate on
mhm.
in their own space.
Yeah.
And the second we move away from that, or sugarcoat it, or dilute it, we're not being truthful to the culture, and we're not being truthful to the, as you like, you know, like you were saying, the sex workers whose lives and livelihoods are in that field.
Mhm.
It's then that we, you know, we're not being truthful to it, and yeah, it's all about responsibility and responsible storytelling, and we'll do our best to make it artistic and shot in a way that maybe hasn't been seen before, because there are definitely techniques that we can do to work for the comfort of our actors and the comfort of our audience. But also, I do think, especially now, there's a, oh, this might be controversial to say, so but I'm
That's
going to
okay.
say it because I believe in it. I think audiences often seek things that make them feel comfortable, and I
Yeah.
think right now
100% agree.
I
Yeah.
can 100% understand why, because the world is uncomfortable to live
Mhm.
in. And so I understand that escapism, and I get it. I mean, the last film I went to go to the cinema to see was Paddington 3, and I, you know, 100% needed that film at that time.
Yeah.
Um, but equally, I do think there is a hesitancy to see content or see films that make people feel uncomfortable. And I think that is a shame, because I do think there's so much growth and development in seeing something that makes us feel a little bit on the edge.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's a really big part of what we do, is representing that truthfully.
Mm.
Yeah.
That was really well said. Thank you. Just to kind of round off everything, because I've really enjoyed our conversation.
Yeah,
But
I'd love to.
obviously you work with so many people. But what's the best advice? Obviously, I'm putting you on the spot a little bit, but
No,
if you
that's all
have
right.
something that comes to mind that's the best advice you would give someone that's potentially like little Gage, like maybe not 8 years old, but maybe 16 or something, about to you know start their career in film,
Yeah.
what's one thing you would tell them?
The one thing that I would say that I think encompasses a lot of other things is don't stop. It can be
Mm,
so easy in this industry, because it is a really hard industry to get into, and it's a really
mm,
hard one to exist in. Like I said before, about people from working class backgrounds like myself, or if you're from a council estate, if you're a woman, if you're trans or non-binary, if you're disabled, or anything that is not the stereotypical
yeah.
privilege that we see in the industry can really, really beat you up sometimes. And it, I've definitely had those moments of thinking, can I keep doing this? And there've been moments where I thought, no, I can't, and
Hmm.
I will stop this. But there's always something that's in me that's kind of pulling me back to film. But and I've seen so many amazing, talented people stop because they've, for whatever reason, they've had to, because you know they've had to pick up a full-time job because they can't exist in an industry that doesn't
Hmm.
pay them fairly. Um, and so I think what I would say to a 16 or 17-year-old who is so keen to get into this industry and who can't see themselves working in any other field is, just don't stop. Like,
Hmm.
push through as much as you can. And within that, I know you said one thing, but I'm cheating
No,
because
yeah, that's fine.
it's an umbrella thing.
Mhm,
Within that, find the tribe, like find your tribe of people
mhm,
who believe in the same passion that you have, and who push you and challenge you and champion you. Like, those people are the ones that when you do fall, they'll pick you up and help you get going again. and that's not me saying don't look after mental health and look after, when I'm saying don't stop, that's not me saying don't look after yourself,
Mm.
because I think that's, by looking after yourself, that means that you won't stop.
Yeah,
Because ultimately, if you're running on this road and running and you're exhausted and you just drop, the world's going to keep on turning and film's going to keep on happening with
definitely.
or without you. So you do have to look after yourself and kind of be be mindful of burnout. But that is something that, by having those people around you to support you, will help you
Mhm.
keep moving.
Yeah.
But yeah, when the stuff really does get going, look after yourself, but don't say I'm gonna give up. I can't do
Mm.
it. Like, because it's so easy to do that. It's so difficult, because it means then we're losing a really, really important voice in the industry, and an
Yeah.
important voice in cinema as a whole, because so many of the films that we make and so many of the films that we see, I think it was 8% of all people who work on film and TV are working class.
Mm.
8% is ridiculous.
Crazy high. Mm.
And it is so important that people recognize that actually those voices are really, really important to get into the industry.
They're needed,
They're so needed.
needed.
So yeah, my one piece of advice is keep going, keep
Mm.
pushing, and within that, find your people to support you to be able to keep going.